Kaieteur Radio.
Welcome to your main newscast right here on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. In our headlines, Kanji awaits permit to begin exploration. EPA has rigid screening process in place for all oil sector projects. Meanwhile, EPA grants permit for $600 million US Bradenhoop port facility. Man shopping with counterfeit money gets gunshot to back, and taxi drivers fight off passenger who attempt to rob him. Qualified persons being paid deplorable rate of salary according to AG Nandalal, and Braceton moves to court to put Kaieteur News assets in receivership. Stay tuned to stay informed.
I'm in a rush. Digital got me in a rush. Driving style for the summer. Digital summer rush.
Nobody's doing it big like Digicel this summer.
Hello, hi. Let me show you something lit. Get your free chats now with me. Tell me video and voice call. Discover and get, and that's not all. Cash and prizes for all of us. It's exciting, it's fabulous. Translate, populate, locate, innovate, but shh. It's a secret, no need to keep it. You won't see me here again. 3, 2, 1. I'll see you in a bit. Download the app now for chat.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joshua Van Slyckman. Over the last 5 years, the EPA has seen an influx of application for permits to pursue projects in the oil and gas sector. Some of these relate to the establishment of warehouses to store chemical and equipment, as well as multiple exploration programs in offshore blocks. But what has caused considerable concerns among some local stakeholders is the fact that such projects have been exempt from undergoing an environmental impact assessment. Head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Kemraj Parsram, categorically stated that these directions are not made hastily, while adding that all applications for projects in the oil and gas sector go through the screening process. The EPA head reiterated that no project is approved without proper due diligence by its independent environmental assessment board. He added that the agency has the option of consulting with international consultants when necessary. Meanwhile, according to court papers, former NISL CEO Winston Braceton, through his attorney Timothy Jonas, has applied to the High Court for an order of receivership to recover income or capital of the defendant company Kaieteur News to recover the judgment of $10 million, which was granted to him in February of this year. The documents were filed with the court and have since served on Kaieteur News' lawyer, attorney at law Christopher Ram. In 2014, Braceton filed 19 separate lawsuits for libel against Kaieteur News over contents public in the Dem Boy Sec column, which he deemed to be defamatory. So far, he has been successful in 7 of those matters, securing over $36 million in judgment claims. Meanwhile, Kaieteur News publisher Glenn Lal says he believes it's a siester plot to get rid of the newspaper. He stated that we have a thorn in flesh of both political regime, exposing their incompetence and corruption. We will see where this goes. Somebody has to come out a winner, he noted. ExxonMobil Guyana is gearing to begin a 5-year 12-well drilling campaign in the controversially awarded Kanji block offshore, pending approval by the EPA. Once approved, it would mean that at the beginning of the operations at the end of the year, there will be at least 58 various types of support vessels in the fleet supporting the company's offshore operation. According to the project summary submitted to the for the Kanji Block 12 well exploration and appraisal projects. By the time operation begin in the Kanji Block, ESSA will have at least 2 floating production, storage and offloading operations operating in Guyana. This, in addition to the 12 well campaign, will see the continued rotational use of up to 58 vessels, 6 helicopters currently in this fleet, and 6 drill ships. Developer of the Port of Redenhoop project, NRG Holding Incorporated, on Monday received an environmental permit for the EPA, which paves the way for the commencement of the project. We understand that the project will see an investment of up to $600 million by the 100% Guyanese-owned consortium. Some of the features of the facility will include, among other things, an offshore terminal, dry dock facility, and a fabrication yard. The port facility is expected to generate massive employment and revenue opportunities for Guyanese. It will occupy some 400 hectares of coastal land. Approximately 150 to 200 persons are expected to be hired during construction, and 50 to 100 persons for the basic operation and maintenance of the base port facilities indicated in Phase 1. Meanwhile, according to Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandalal, qualified persons in the public sector are being paid a deplorable rate of remuneration. To this end, he noted that he hopes that the issue could be addressed across the public sector. He explained that for years, brain drain has been happening due to the said remuneration package that qualified persons are receiving. However, he noted that despite Guyanans having a brain drain, the country still has sufficient qualified persons. Meanwhile, one of 3 men who went shopping on Monday with counterfeit money at the HUA Chinese supermarket located along the Diamond Access Road left with a gunshot wound to his back. Police have identified him as 26-year-old Shakil Darimple. Darimple, according to investigators, was shot sometime after 20 hours. A release sent out by the Guyana Police Force detailed that the injured man was shot by a security guard of the supermarket. The security guard was reportedly forced to open fire on one of the men who was shopping with Darimple, shot the cashier who tried to prevent them from leaving the items that they had purchased. They reportedly purchased a number of items and paid for them with 2 counterfeit $5,000 bill. Meanwhile, a 24-year-old taxi driver was on Monday evening caught in an altercation with a passenger who was in possession of a firearm and attempt to rob him of his gold chain. According to a police report, the incident happened at the Mora Camp, Patawa Road, Martika, around 19 hours. The taxi driver was approached by a man with a plait hair, wearing a mask and toque, who entered his vehicle in front seat and further requested to be taken to Mora Camp. The suspect, upon approaching his designation, drew a black handgun on the driver and attempted to relieve him of his gold chains from his neck. The driver, who refused to give up his possession, wrestled the firearm away from the suspect and in the process hit him in the head twice with the firearm, during which a round was discharged. The suspect then escaped the vehicle and fled the scene. And finally, at this time, the members of GAW yesterday at the Berbice Bridge Company Inc. staged a picketing exercise outside of the facility, calling on management of the company to respect the Occupational Safety and Health OSH Act. The workers are upset over the refusal to replace personal protective equipment damaged during the course of their work. Attempt made by the union and workers of the bridge to have their damaged equipment replaced has been refused by management. Workers said that they learned that the company's leading manager is reported to have said that the workers have received their PPE entitlements and should purchase any replacement. Those sentiments deeply agitated the workers, specifically for the fact that they recognize their rights are being trampled upon. And it is time for us to turn our attention to the page 7 of the Kaieteur News that is dedicated to being blunt. It is a little embarrassing, but we had to report the story of a woman who took an enamel cup off the head of a cop. We feel that cop with a cop beat. We feel for that cop with a cop beating his head. This is embarrassing to share too, but clearly Exxon took more than an enamel cup on the head of Guyanese leaders in the government and the opposition. It is also believed that Exxon dropped some rich and heavy object in the PPP's cup. The party's leadership are so stunned that they can't even open their mouths. Take a look at these folks who took more than the enamel cup to their heads. And we turn our attention to your COVID-19 updates. The Ministry of Health yesterday announced that 7 more persons who tested positive for the deadly coronavirus disease have died. As a result of this, the country's COVID-19 death toll has moved to 654. According to the Health Ministry, the latest fatalities are that of a 62-year-old man and 6 women, 88 and 87-year-old and 84, 73-year-old and 43-year-old, and a 31-year-old, all from Region 4. 161 new infections were recorded, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 26,772. 37 patients are admitted in the ICU, 136 persons are in institutional isolation, 2,249 are in home isolation, and 8 persons are in institutional quarantine. To date, a total of 23,696 persons who tested positive for the virus have recovered. And that's the news in a moment. My name is Joshua Van Sleckman. Thank you for joining us. Coming up after the break, a short presentation on the oil and gas sector by publisher of the Kaieteur News, Mr. Glenn Lal. And at 12 hours 30, All Things Pop with Chitra Singh and yours truly.
Want value for your